Let's review Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. The Mishnah at the bottom of Lamed Amud Beis discusses a case where the Jew borrowed money from the Goy and he used his chametz as a mashkin. That chametz after Pesach is not asher ba'ano because we consider it as having been in the rishus of the Goy throughout Pesach. If the opposite occurred, where the Jew lent the Goy money and the Goy put up chametz for collateral, that chametz would be considered being in the possession of the Yid for Pesach, and it would be asher ba'no as chametz oval of a Pesach after Pesach. The Gemara is going to spend some time understanding the particulars of this Mishnah and the exact explanation of the Mishnah. But the Gemara starts with introducing a machlokes between Abaye and Rava, bal choiv l'mafreya hu goiva, like Abaye, or mikana l'ba hu goiva. When there is some collateral put up, which the bal choiv eventually seizes after the due date of the loan, if the loan is not paid up, do we consider that property belonged to the malva the whole time, or we only say that it's considered a malva's once he actually seizes it after the due date? And the Gemara says that the nafkamina would be if the malva was makdishit in that period of time. If you hold l'mafreya hu goiva like Abaye, then if the malva was makdish, whatever it is that he ended up seizing later, it's kodesh. His hektish is valid, and if he sold it, his sale is valid. But if you hold mikano labo goiva, then if the malva was makdish or sold it before that due date, when he actually seized that piece of property, that metalton or whatever it was, then the hektish or the mechir would not be valid. The Gemara introduces us to an interesting case where Ruvain, in his lifetime, borrowed money from Levi, so he owed Levi money, but he also lent money to Shimon, so that Shimon owed him money. And then he passed away. His estate will then go seize property from Shimon to repay the loan that Shimon owed to Reuven. However, that property that's seized now, that Reuven didn't have in his lifetime, his Yisraelim seized that property from Shimon after he passed away. Levi, who is owed money by the estate, can seize that property from the Yisraelim, even though that property never got into Reuven's rishus, because that seizing, that the estate seized the property from Shimon, happened after Reuven was deceased. So the Gemara probes into how it works. If you hold like Abaye, that then it makes sense, because when the Yisraelim seized that property from Shimon, we already look at it like that property was in Reuven's possession at the time of the original loan, meaning when Reuven was still alive. And if that's the case, it makes sense that property would be meshubit to Levi, and therefore Levi can seize that same property from the estate. However, according to Rava, this wouldn't make sense, so the Gemara explained it according to Rava using a novel chiddush of the Shibudi of Rab Nosson. Rab Nosson says, whenever Reuven owes Shimon money and Shimon owes Levi money, we automatically say that Reuven owes Levi money. And we learn it from the pasuk is V'noshan lasher osham loy. You give the money to who is owed, not necessarily to whom you borrowed from, because you have to go up to the top of the supply chain and pay back the money to the first Baal Chayv. So therefore, even though no one seized any property yet while Reuven was still alive, but since Reuven owed Levi money when he was alive, and Shimon owed Reuven money when Reuven was alive, automatically we say that there's a direct link and a direct shibud from Shimon's property to Levi, and that's why even according to Rava, who holds Baal Chayv, Mikano L'Bahu Goiva, Levi has a right to seize this property from the estate, this property that was only seized by the estate from Shimon after Reuven passed away. We still don't have exactly clarification of our Mishnah. The Gemara now brings up our Mishnah. The Gemara says our Mishnah should be dependent in Rava and Abaye, because our Mishnah says that if the chometz is a mashkin to the goy, we look at it like it belongs to the goy throughout Pesach, which would indicate that bal choiv l'mafreya hu goiva, which would be a proof to Abaye. So the Gemara says our Mishnah might be a different case. It might be speaking sheher hinu etzlai, meaning when the Yid took the loan from the goy, he didn't just say this chametz in my house will be meshubed, and you'll come collect it at that point if I don't pay back. Rather, he immediately at the beginning of the loan gave the chametz to the guy and made it into a mashkin, and at this point the Gemara held that Abba Chayv is kind of mashkin, and therefore we say that the guy owned this property as a mashkin throughout the entire Pesach. And the same thing on the flip side, when the Yid lent the guy money, the guy gave chametz to the Yid, which the Yid kept in his rishus, and with Bal Chayv kind of mashkin, we say it would have belonged to the Yid the whole time, and that's why it's Asher Bana. However, the Gemara is still developing this thought, and on Amud Beis, the Gemara has another shot to explain our Mishnah.